aptly titled Roots into the Music Industry. My name is Asia, and some of you may have seen me speaking earlier, but in case you didn't, I'm the General Manager at the Scottish Music Industry Association, and we've got a wonderful panel today, so really excited to get into roots into the music industry, and we're going to be chatting about the kind of many and multifaceted routes into the music industry and the types of careers that people can have working in the industry. And we're going to chat about how our students got their foot through the door and some insights from their experiences, whether highlights or perhaps challenges we'd like to talk about. But just to kick off, I'm going to get my panellists to introduce themselves and a brief outline of what they currently do in the music industry. George.
Yeah, hi, I'm George. I don't know the official title I would use for it, but I'd probably say like founder and kind of project manager at Crowded Flat, which is like a promotions and arts management within Scotland. Crowded Flat is very kind of started off as DIY, so I like to say that we're DIY always because that's where my heart belongs in the music industry. But yeah.
Hi, so my name is Karin. I work for Pitch Scotland, which is conference based in Glasgow that focuses on hip hop and rap. I also work for Scottish Alternative Music Awards as a project assistant. I DJ for artists called Burns, and I do freelance DJing as well. And on top of that, I also run DJ workshops for women.
I'm Gaïa. I'm an artist, but also my day job, I work at Nice and Sleazy's. I'm their booker. So I kind of take care of like curating their calendar, kind of promoting all of their shows, etc. And I'm an artist manager as well, based down in London for R&B, sort of neo-soul and jazz artists down in London.
Amazing. So we've already got loads of different hats being worn by our panellists, but the first kind of question I'm going to go for, and it might be quite a complicated one to answer, is just how did you end up doing your current role? George, you started DIY, so do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, mine's is probably a bit more of a less traditional route into it.
We love non-traditional.
Yeah, it's definitely not the studying route or the academic route. I kind of got into the scene when I was younger because I just kind of fell in love with the local scene, and a lot of my friends are musicians, so I was quite lucky to kind of piggyback off of them essentially. But I also work as a music photographer, so I spent a lot of time doing that, and I kind of ended up getting to know a lot of people in the scene, whether they were like even people who just work in bars who are also artists and stuff. But yeah, then through being a photographer, I had loads of discussions with artists and other people in the scene, and we kind of got to the point where we were like, oh, there's like a part of the scene that's missing, and we wanted to make like a safe space, and we wanted to have like our own kind of community and scene, because there was a lot of stuff that we didn't like in the scene that we grew up in when we were younger. So we wanted to create our own, and we kind of just did it. Just started putting on shows and started doing live sessions. And well, we started with the live sessions, and then it was kind of like the people we were doing the live sessions with were like, oh, we wish people like you were putting on shows. And then we done that, and then they were like, oh, we wish people like you would represent us. And we were like, yeah, why not? We can do that as well. And it worked out, and thankfully the team that I work with now are like incredibly talented people who all do have degrees in music. It's just me that doesn't. But no, by just being in a community of people who were like-minded, we all came together and we all look out for each other.
Amazing. Guy, I can see you like nodding along.
No, I think because we sort of crossed paths like quite early on when I sort of started. So I don't know if you can tell I'm not from here, but I literally started working at a bar. I started working like as a bartender at Sleazy's, and saw so many bands come through, got a venue downstairs, and so many musicians come through the Sleazy's, even if it isn't when they're not playing there, they just kind of come after for a drink, and I just got to meet a lot of people and got to sort of see like how shows are put together. And then again, Sleazy's is a still independent, DIY, very raggedy put together, but so that's kind of how I met you, and we started working together and like putting on shows and doing festivals together. But yeah, a lot of it is just community, and that's one of the great things about Scotland in particular, and Glasgow especially, that is so community orientated. Just by being in the room, you can learn so much. And by being in the room, that could just be like buy a ticket to a show, like, and meet the reps and like meet the bands. It doesn't even have to be more like complicated than that. So yeah, working at a pub, and then started shadowing the booker, and now I have his job.
Sure, as well, like as an artist manager, was that something that you kind of created your own pathway in, or did that come through, you know, as a consequence of Sleazy's or?
Yeah, so that came through as a consequence of Sleazy's. Working, offering, sort of going back and forth to London, literally to go see shows. I helped a few artists like get shows in Glasgow. And when I say get shows, it was like, oh, do you want to play at the pub? Like it wasn't even anything special, but just that wanting, you know, that kind of eagerness to show allowed me to then get to know these managers, and now working with this management company that we're working with like major labels and things like that, just do this little favor that I was able to do by just like, I'll come play at the pub, or like I can try and get you support. Being nice and trying to create opportunities for other people will ultimately also create opportunities for you. So now I'm able to just kind of go back and forth now.
Amazing. And Karin, how did you get into your current roles?
So my very first experience was when I first came to Scotland 8 years ago. I was also working in a bar, or it was more like a club, plateau one. I don't know if you know. So I used to work there. I met a producer who also ran a record label called Yum Yum Records at that time, from France. And we just really got on like music-wise, so they asked me to basically help them with the record label, scout a couple of artists for them, and that's how I really got into the industry. And with DJing, that was also through Plateau One. I would just come for my shifts really early, and I would just use the equipment there and basically taught myself how to DJ. So yeah, that was my the first origin story.
Because I think that's how we first met, was through the DJ workshops that you were running, actually.
Yeah, that would be through the DJ workshops, yeah.
I mean, one thing that I think is quite obvious to everyone in the audience, but we are going to have to talk about it, is the fact that most people up here have highlighted a few different roles or things that they're maybe doing concurrently whilst developing their music career. I mean, how common is it for people to be wearing lots of different hats or to be earning a living from their jobs in music? Sorry, everyone.
Up here, but I'm also a bartender. I've been a bartender for far too long as well. But basically, we're just telling everyone to get a job in a pub. But no, like.
Who works in a pub? Yeah. Great, amazing.
Everyone else needs to get a job in a pub, right? No, but like it's obviously incredibly hard to make a living out of working in the music industry. I think everyone in this room is aware of that. But having a job in a pub or having a job in hospitality or anything along those lines, it's so beneficial. Like Gaïa was talking about community. Like the pub I work in Glasgow is like everyone in the music scene drinks in there, and then when it closes,
our pubs are right next to each
yeah, like as soon as my pub closes, everyone goes to Sleazy's. It's like variety bar Sleazy's. That's just like the rite of passage of the night. But like I'm also a music photographer. Like I'm also the events coordinator for the hospitality union in Scotland. So like I also find it really enjoying to have so many different areas to work in, and don't get me wrong, sometimes it's incredibly stressful, but I suppose it's just like a graft, and the harder you work, the more rewards you'll get in the industry, and sometimes it feels like it's impossible, and sometimes I still feel like it's impossible, but as long as you're living it and enjoying it, I think that's the most important part.
I think you definitely just to kind of go off what you're saying, you can't be scared to be doing a million things. I think I became self-employed 3 years ago now. So I'm in a very lucky position where I make a living off of my work in the music industry, but I also have a million jobs in that area, whether it's obviously booking for Sleazy's or doing this artist management. The amount of, sometimes I do I'll rep a show, or I'll DJ, or I'll play a show. All of these things are just tools in your arsenal that are super, super useful for you down the line. And I think you're going to end up in a lot of situations where people can sometimes deter you from doing that a little bit by being you need to pick a lane. You want to do this one. Don't believe them. It's not true. It just isn't true. All of the opportunities I've gotten have purely come from the fact that I wanted to learn more, and to, rather than pay somebody else to do something, I want to do it myself, because you are your own business. And it means that if you can then have all of these tools in your arsenal, it just means that you can do a million things, and also lead a really fun, exciting life, but also, if you get tired of one thing, you can jump to the other. It's in the industry as well, there's so many different, like, there's so many jobs that I'm still not even aware of that you can do. Like, you know, it's not just being a musician or a manager, there's so many different roles that you can have. And it's actually easier to know what you don't like than it is to know what you do like. And you can only do that by trying all these different things and be like, yeah, maybe this isn't for me. So yeah, don't be scared to have 1,000 jobs and graft.
I definitely agree with Gaïa, like, also because I do more all the behind the scenes stuff in music, and I was always told, oh, you need to be promoter, you need to be doing, I don't know, show rep, like, you shouldn't be doing more jobs at once because then people don't know what you're actually good at. But I think it's actually the very opposite, that especially if you work with like grassroots organizations, they usually need you to have multiple skills because you will be asked to do their social media, then you will be asked to do like stage management. Even with bands, the way I started working with him, he was actually looking for a social media manager. So I say that I can do that job even though I've never done social media. I hate posting on my own social media. And eventually I just found my way how to, I was helping to manage him at the start as well. And then when he started getting gigs, I was like, well, I can DJ too, so I can also be your DJ. And yeah, so just try to like stack up multiple jobs on top of that, and it can also, yeah, it can help you grow too. Just like trying the different jobs, as you said, like you never know what you will actually be good at till you try it.
I think the thing that Gaïa just said about like building your arsenal, like building all of these skills areas, whether it's being in a band, whether it's being a songwriter for other people, there are so many transferable skills and so many jobs that are opportunities that come out of those. I mean, we've named quite a few, but like, what opportunities do you think there are for, you know, the artists and the creatives in the room? What skills do these people already have, and what, like, can we highlight some industry career routes that they might not have thought of but that we know about?
I think for me, my personal experience was like definitely going down the working in videography and photography, and that can always seem like a very, very daunting industry because you need all the equipment, you need all the contacts, you need all the bands to go around. That is an absolute lie. Like some of the biggest shows I shot when I was 17 on a very, very bad camera because I sent an email off to a promoter and ended up photographing bands in the Barrowlands. Like it just, honestly, it's so much easier to get into that industry specifically, and having those skills as a photographer, you can honestly, working in like the arts management that we do, and me being able to like go on tour with our bands and also manage them, like be their TM and be their photographer, like that saves us so much money as the business who represents them. But like if you've got any skills, like even having, like I said, bar skills, having that ability to talk to literally anyone over a bar is so important when you're in the music industry. Like just ask anyone if you want something, just shoot your shot. And I think that's the most important thing that I've learned anyway.
Yeah, I definitely think as well, my tactic's always been say yes and figure it out later. So like if I'm asked to do something and I don't know how to do it, like to be on the booker position is the actually perfect example of this, where I was interested and the owner just was like, cool, go ahead. I'd never advanced a show, didn't know what a tech spec was, didn't know anything, didn't have any like literally was thrown into the ringer and had to figure it out. And now 3 years later, I'm, you know, hopefully now I think I can say I'm good at it. But yeah, say yes, figure out later, and don't be scared to put yourself out there. Whether it's just going to shows, meeting people, don't turn your nose to anyone. You never know what they could be doing, what cog they are, and like what in the machine that they are. Like it really means like your community, and at least for me, like I don't do photography, I don't do any of that stuff, but I know a lot of photographers, I know a lot of videographers. It's just being able to tap into the people that are around you, because though you might have a lot of tools in your arsenal, ultimately when you get to a certain level, you can't do everything. And you just need to be just a sound person to work with, and a cool person to work, and a fun person to work with. And being nice will get you so many places that, yeah, having your community and being able to tap into the people around you is like the most important. So go to shows, definitely.
Yeah, I agree with everything. And I would also say like no job should be too small for you when you're starting, like even if it's just maybe working doors for like a friend's gig. suddenly you are at the venue before the doors open, you get to speak to the show reps, you get to be in a bit more professional settings at the gig rather than just attending that, and that can then lead to creating good connections, and you never know who you end up speaking to, so like nothing should be like no opportunity is too small for you when you're starting. So I would say same as Gaïa, just say yes and then figure it out later. Google is for free.
Yeah.
We have ChatGPT nowadays. So yeah, you can always figure it out if that's
And
if
ask
that's the way.
questions. Like, ask questions. For real, most people just want to actually help. Most of us are tired. And we need more
Someone will
people.
always help you out.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, I think that what we've like talked about so much so far is actually just putting yourself out there, chatting to people, asking for opportunities, asking questions, and saying yes. But like, if there was one piece of advice you could offer to someone who is starting out about how to kind of approach getting their foot in the door, what would that be? It's a tough one.
That is a tough one because my advice is just go for it. Yeah, like genuinely, like I was saying, I was exactly saying I'd never put a show on in my life until I had. Do you know what I mean? And but my one bit of advice is do it, and then the first time you do it might not go well. Just keep at it. It will work out. Like, I mean, there's definitely been stuff and points where I've been like, oh, what's the point? This is driving me insane. I put so much of my time into this, but see if you just consistently keep going at it. It's like people tell you with social media, if you keep posting, eventually the numbers will go up. It's the exact same with putting on shows. If you keep going, eventually people are going to be interested. You want people to be almost kind of, oh God, I've seen this everywhere, I'm going to go see what this is. Like, you kind of want people to just be intrigued by how much you are doing and putting on, essentially.
I think it's also really important to be authentic in the sense of, you know, trust your gut and like trust yourself in whether it's like your creativity, whatever route you want to go down, whether you're interested in promoting, whether you're interested in managing, whether you just want to put on a couple shows for some friends or put on an exhibition, like trust your gut. The worst thing you can do is try to, I don't know, be like everyone else, or like try to think that there's one particular way that you have to do this thing because you got this advice from someone. Like, trust and believe in your own journey that it's not going to be linear for sure. Like, every little opportunity, you might take a couple steps back, you then like take a couple steps forward. Like, it's not just going to come one after the other. So like trusting yourself and trusting your authenticity and your ability to do that, as long as you're driven by the want to be in the industry, by music, by creation, you're going to be fine, and you're going to be able to have a role, however big, within this like amazing community of music that we get to work in. So you just need to believe that you want to do it, and you will doubt yourself a lot. Like, there are so many days I wake up and I'm like, why did I pick this career? But the reason that you keep going is because, well, I can't imagine working anything else. Or you can, but you keep doing a little bit of music, you keep doing a little bit of managing. You can always, like, you can promote a show at any point in your life, or you can, I don't know, put on a gig with your friends at any point. You don't need to be an industry professional to do that at all.
Yeah, so again, I agree with everything that's been said, and I would also say, like, especially in Scotland at this point, like, if you're doing music to like get rich of it, like, you're not in the right industry. Like, you definitely need to do it because you have genuine love for it, and then the money will come eventually. And also, don't take no for the answer. Don't be annoying, but be restless and just try to find ways. If you get knocked back for something, try to find another way how to get to that opportunity. Just be innovative, yeah.
Yeah, I think picking up on that, like, obviously I work for an organisation, and I would say, like, if you're feeling nervous about reaching out as a cold email, like, don't. Like, it might take a little while for a response to come through. That's because people are busy. But, like, never be afraid to send that email because, again, we're all working in it because we love it and we are genuinely here to help. And I think I've got a rule which is, like, 3 chases and then I'm bowing out. But, like, don't be afraid to chase either, because again, it'll just be that someone's inbox is a little bit too full. There's 5 gigs on that week that, you know, things are happening, X, Y, Z. Like, but I always think like a 3 chase is, you know, send it once, wait a week, 2 weeks, chase it, wait another couple of weeks, chase it. No one's going to get annoyed at you for doing that if you're doing it politely and respectfully and being kind and a genuine person. But like, it's not a knockback. So like, do push and do ask for what it is that you want, because even if there's an opportunity that an organisation can't provide, the majority of the time they'll go, oh, maybe you could reach out to that person.
Yeah.
Maybe you could see this, like, have a look at this website. Did you want to hunt?
No, I was gonna say, like, a no doesn't it might just not be the right time or the right person, but they can definitely kind of push you in the right direction. If they don't have time to take you on or don't have time to sit down with you. Also, like, the amount of people I've just like asked to go for a coffee just to pick their brains. You know, whether it was, I did it when I started booking and I reached out to some other venue bookers and be like, how the fuck do you do this job? And I got so much great advice. Or reach out to artists that you really enjoy. You're like, all right, I really like how their social media looks. Or photographer, like you have to do it all the time, like reaching out to photographers to want to get on shows, or reach out to bands, being like, oh, I like how you do this. Like, so much, all of this knowledge is just available to you. And honestly, the other great thing about music industry, people love talking about themselves. So like, you ask them about what they do.
Why do you think we're all here today?
Yeah, exactly. That, you know, any opportunity they have to be able to pass on this knowledge, like, yeah, you trust me, they're waiting for people to reach out.
And I think, like, a couple of minutes ago you said about being authentic as well, and like just reaching out to people. Like, I think the being authentic is something that like we try and do in Credit Flat, because a lot of the bigger promoters, like your usual suspects, are like, they can be seen as just like this industry wall. So we always wanted to be very, like, the Credit Flat had faces to it, if that makes sense. That was like something we tried to like change. And I think that's why we liked working with Gaïa so much as well, because it wasn't like in other venues where you've got emails and a booker. Like, Gaïa will come down to our shows on our night off and chat away with us and make sure everything's alright. So, and then by having that connection, we're doing a festival together now, but like,
Yeah, buy tickets.
yeah, nice kids. But like, by having those connections and being authentic and having a face to whatever you put on or do, means that people want to come up and approach you and talk to you. I love talking to people when I'm at a gig and they have no idea who they are, and they come up and they're like, oh, I like what you do, we'd love to get involved. I'm like, let's do it then. Let's go for a pint, let's go for a coffee, let's talk about it. And I think being authentic is, I'm glad you brought it up, because I would have forgot about it.
So we've talked about being authentic, but in terms of what other skills people who want to work in the music industry could have, what would you highlight on your CV, for example? Or what are some things that for you are kind of vital for working in this industry?
I'll go back to people skills and having the ability to talk to everyone who comes up to you, respecting everyone who comes up to you, regardless of where their stature is in the industry or the scene, is vitally important. And I think if for taking people on like we have done with Credit Flat, it's always been having a good relationship with them, and also accepting that it's going to be a bit shitty at times, and so having that like graft about you, and if you can get that across on a CV and your kind of personal statement bit, looking at your qualifications and having them is great, but every CV that comes in today is now going to have a unique degree on it as well. You've just got to put across your relevant experience in a way that makes you stand out as a character, because being a character is equally as important as the qualifications that you have.
I think as well, being able to showcase any experience is, I think, a lot more important necessarily than skills. So even if it is on a very like grassroots level, like say you start doing like box office shifts for start repping shows, like being able to show that you're involved in a lot of different areas, I think can be really, really helpful, including like obviously like your people skills. With also music industry jobs, be prepared to spend a lot of time on your computer, like on your laptop. That's a lot of emails. So I think like time management is like super, super important, especially if you kind of go down my route, which is like the self-employed route, where you are your own boss, and you have to. I don't really technically have anywhere to be at any point, so it's like being able to structure your week, structure your time. Being able, because at the end of the day, people don't really care if you've been, working a 30-hour week. Like, it's just about getting things across the line. So time management is the one thing that I think I had to learn the most, and I struggled with the most when I started, but that is, I think, my best tool, especially because you have to, like, wear so many hats. So being able to, like, definitely showcase that, and showcasing, again, like, people skills, like in whether it's in your personal statement, but also being able to like be recognizable in these spaces, like i.e. by going into these spaces and meeting these people is going to get you so much farther than just a piece of paper like ever will.
Karin?
I would say it's also just like being reliable and organized and like living up to your word. Because like for me, working behind the scenes in the music industry and dealing with like a lot of artists, people tend to be quite all over the place. And a lot of people is also maybe neurodivergent with ADHD, so it might be difficult for them to deal with emails and stuff like that. So if you do work in more of like the support roles, it's really important to just be reliable, make sure that if you get asked to do something, really do that, and yeah.
Because you won't have anyone else to blame as well. Like, it just needs done, basically. Like, in any, like, genuinely, like, in any position, it's, I think, especially with, like, say, like, Crowded Flower, even, like, the stuff that you do, like, none of it is, like, it's not, like, a big structured company where you can pass it on to somebody else. It's, if you don't do it, chances are there's nobody else behind you to pick it up, and then it has, like, such a knock-on effect. So just getting the job done.
I think there are also, you know, we've talked about the kind of personal statement section of a CV. I think there are loads of things that we can maybe think aren't worth highlighting that actually are. And like, I'm thinking specifically of like, if I was applying for a job in a jazz-based organization and I have been working on a grassroots level with promoting jazz artists, you know, that's not necessarily a job on my CV, but kind of showcasing that like your bespoke knowledge and your bespoke experience is so important, and I think we can forget about that. And like just picking up on your photography point as well, it's not necessarily that you've got X things, but you can like tell the story, I guess.
Yeah, I think if as long as you can, like I said about putting across your character and things that you don't think are important, like if you're applying for a job, for example, they're going to get 100 CVs that are all the exact same. Here's my qualifications. Here's like, have a bit of power. Tell them what you listen to. I don't know, put something silly in it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, but by them having a CV that's got a bit of personality and things that you don't think are necessarily important, see if it is remotely related to what you're applying for, put it on your CV. Yeah. Because it shows more experience. It might not seem like experience to you, but the person taking you on, it's definitely important for them to see everything that you can do or have done.
I would say apply also for things you might think you're not qualified for. Like, apply up, if that makes sense. Like, 100% apply for things that you don't think you're qualified for. I think often, like you were saying about, like, putting, you know, just, like, your favorite song, a lot of labels actually do ask that question. Like, it'll be in, like, the top line when you're applying for labels. It'll be in their top line, like, tell us about your favorite piece of music, tell us about your favorite song. And you realize then that, so since, for example, like, working with Sony, like, so many of the people that are, like, at the very top levels are just fucking random people, who just love music. And it isn't these, like, big boys. It's oftentimes a lot of really young people who just really, really love music and just are amazing and creative and, like, have an energy about them. So if there's any way that you're able to kind of like put that across in any sort of writing or even whether it's in the interview, that's what's the most important. People want to hire people that they like, and people want to hire people that they think are gonna be innovative and be exciting, and like, because you can learn skills. You can learn how to, I don't know, promote a show. You can learn how to, like, you know, do whatever you need to do. But what you can't teach is like your grit and like your want to be in this industry. And I think that's what's honestly that little extra magic that you definitely should keep.
Speaking of learning, obviously we've touched on the fact that obviously there are, you know, lots of job applicants or people looking to enter the industry who will have come through a kind of university route. I just wanted to ask all three of you about your kind of experience in education. Did you study music? Have you done any specific courses that are related to the kind of current roles that you're in, any apprenticeships, etc.?
Music, absolutely zero. Like,
Me too.
None at all. I studied fine art photography, and that obviously helps being a music photographer, but I have, like, my knowledge of studying music of any regard is zero, which I like to think is a compliment for the work that I've done. But like, working class uni was never really an option for me when I was younger because of like financial situation. So I wear that badge with pride. Working class boy, no music education, and still doing what I'm doing. So if you're in that same boat and someone and I'm going to say it's annoying. The music industry is full of a lot of privileged people, and a lot of them are lovely, but a lot of them are going to look down on you because of your upbringing. Don't get angry, don't get annoyed, just prove them wrong and be better than them.
No, so right. Yeah, I mean, I went to uni. I went to Aberdeen Uni. But that was a completely different route I was going down. I studied law, so I was going to become a lawyer, but then burnt out in my last year. And still finished my degree, but like that's why I actually ended up working at a pub, was because I was taking a year off to just do a really mind-numbing job and just like have a really fun year, which I absolutely did, by the way. And that was the catalyst for me to eventually discover that you could actually get a job in working in music. I didn't just have to be a hobby. So yeah, but I think I definitely did learn some skills from uni, I think, in terms of, you know, being able to write a lot, but I wouldn't say so many, my degree itself isn't what's brought on all of these opportunities, because also at this point, no one has ever asked me where I studied or like what I did, to be honest, but it definitely, I mean, if anything, like it definitely taught me grit and the ability to work long hours, especially with a law degree or whatever, but it's not necessarily needed. I think there are definitely amazing skills that you can learn from a degree for sure. Like it is a lot of long hours sometimes, like some weeks are absolutely mental. I think your ability to write and being able to, especially like, also like, don't use ChatGPT. It can be useful for some things, but also like, you can see it. And like being able to write and like put myself across in writing was probably one of the best things I learned from uni. But I wouldn't say it was anything that was necessarily needed. Again, the paths into the music industry are so varied and wide, which is like one of the best things about the industry in general, I think.
So I tried to study music production when I started DJing, and I dropped out after 2 months because I was the only woman in the class and I just couldn't do it. And then I did 2 years of HND on college. It was music business, but I must say I don't feel like it really helped me progress in my career, because it was really focused on like working with bands and indie music, which wasn't like the industry I was in. So it was good for the sake of being able to say like, oh yeah, I studied music business, but that's probably where it ended for me. And like since I finished, no one ever asked me when I was applying for jobs like if I studied music business at university, nothing like that. So
I would say that there is lots of cool things you can do that aren't like the academic route. Like when I was younger, doing stuff with bands and they done the hit the road stuff. With JB down there was in a band that I done that with a long time ago now, but like stuff like that, and there's like Willow, who runs Psycho Buzz in Glasgow, she does like massive networking events and things like this. These are equally as important as the academic side of things.
Also, like that's sort of the opportunity you get from me, like is the ability to like have access to this stuff, because that's definitely one thing I would have loved maybe kind of earlier on in my career, I guess, is to have access to networking events like Resonate, like Pitch or whatever, or like even things like the Samas, to be able to just be in the same room as other people who do this stuff, because it can feel at times incredibly lonely. Like you kind of just feel like you're this like lone standing island, and people aren't necessarily able to relate. So being in rooms like this where obviously you get to see speakers, but also meet other people that are interested in doing this in the future, I think, and coming up with that same community is like even more important, I think.
Yeah, and I think that what we talked about is kind of about finding the right fit for you and what it is that you want in terms of training or development, or, you know, there are so many different routes into the industry. But like one thing from like my work at the SMIA, like we have a partnership with some academic institutions, and a lot of the courses offer like work placement opportunities. So we always take an intern every year, and I know that lots of courses offer that. And we've had some brilliant experiences, and, you know, are actually, like, as an organisation, we're really invested in that person and their development. And I would hope that, you know, the people that we've had as interns should always feel like they can come to us and ask for advice and ask for guidance. And I think that kind of on-the-job training that you can get through courses can be really valuable as well, because it's a slightly more formalised way of networking or like getting into those rooms.
And also figuring out what you don't like. I've done so many jobs. I worked as at a PR agency. Hated that. I was not good at it as well, and but I did it. And now, before I started, I didn't really know what PR entailed, whether, for like album rollouts, like EP rollouts, didn't know, but now I know. I just don't like it. And that's just one thing that you can take off, or like, rapping, or what, like, it's just learning on the job is always going to be, I think, the best.
Has anyone done any professional development courses? No?
So.
Oh no, it's just a question. It's not on my list. I just thought I'd ask. So we've talked about kind of the importance of networking, and I guess first question is, like, we've already kind of established how important it is to go out, meet people, and build your community. But it can be an incredibly daunting thing to do when you're young, you're at the first networking event, you're coming into a big space full of industry people. Do you have any tips or advice for how to get out there, meet people?
Everyone's terrified. Everyone is shit scared all the time. It's all a facade, basically. But people are more confident than others, and if you're terrified to go up and speak to someone, you don't have to. If you're in a networking event and you're terrified of everyone in the room, push yourself and go speak to one person. It doesn't even have to be someone in the room who's doing anything in music. Just go and speak to them. And my number one advice for anyone who ever talks to me about this is go to every gig you can possibly go to. That is where you will do more network. I genuinely think you do more networking at gigs than you do at networking events. Because the people who go to gigs at the grassroots level are the people you're going to work with more than essentially people at big conferences. You're going to rub shoulders with people at gigs more than you're going to with an industry head at a conference. Do you know what I mean? So go to conferences, listen to their advice, but go to gigs. That's the most important place in the whole scene. And you get to listen to good music as well.
I would say do your research. And that's always been a really useful tool to me, whether it was like before going to a conference or even before going to a gig, like sort of become familiar with who's going to be there. Because I was the same. I've always been quite scared to, even at things like today, to be honest, like I find a friend and I'm like, cool, I'm just going to stick with you because like this is comfortable. So like even now I still struggle to like meet new people. But what is really helpful is if I've done a little bit of research and I kind of know one or two people that are going to be there, I can maybe go up to them and be like, hey, actually, I'm a really big fan of your work. And that small sentence can lead to an entire conversation, and all of a sudden you're just like having a normal conversation with them. Same can be at a gig. You like do a bit of research on the band, okay? Like you kind of know what they look like. After the show, go up to them and be like, oh, I really liked your music. And like just little things like that, like creating luck for yourself can be really, really useful by just kind of opening the conversation. So it doesn't have to be as formal as, hello, my name is Gaïa, and I do, like, just, hey, I really love your work. Oh, I love the project that you were working on. And that's, your knowledge is your biggest superpower. Knowing who and where and, like, what people are doing is going to be, like, your best tool. So that's a little trick that I kind of use. Even I do that to this day, to be fair. That's kind of how I break the ice, I think.
Karin?
I would say also, like, if you go to, like, conferences and stuff, don't always go to the person you think it's, like, the most important that can give you the most. Like, you can go to people who work for, like, grassroots organization, and they might be actually able to help you more if you are at the start of your career rather than if you go to someone who writes for, like, the Scotsman, because they will probably not care about you. They might pretend that they care, but they will go home and forget about you. As someone who works for a grassroots organization, they will genuinely want to help you. So, yeah, I would just say don't always try to go to the big names, but just even talk to the person next to you, because you never know where they're going to be in a year, in two, and then they might come in handy. It doesn't always have to be in that moment when you're speaking to them.
Amazing. Thank you all so much. We've unfortunately run out of time, and I want to give questions for the audience. But thank you all so much. I think loads of insight here. But I'm going to ask if there's any questions from the audience for our panelists. Oh, loads. Wonderful. We'll go there first, and then come to this gentleman in the yellow jacket.
So I'm wondering, because you've spoken a lot about being authentic, but there seems to be a lot of opportunities in the industry that are very genre-based. So they're very much like, this is for folk artists, and this is for hip-hop artists. So how do you handle that boxing without losing the authenticity, really?
I mean, it's difficult. it can be quite difficult sometimes because I think at a certain level in the industry, they do try to kind of like box things in terms of, especially genre based, which is something like as a musician and as a promoter, I don't believe in because so much music is just like pollinates across each other. But I apply for things that aren't necessarily what you would consider in your box. Like I'm a jazz and like R&B musician, but I played on a folk show recently, and it was incredible and it can work. So in the same way, when you like being authentic to yourself just also means like, well, I still think that this would be a great opportunity for me, so I'm still going to apply and still put myself in this room. So the same advice goes with like applying upwards. If you even think, well, okay, well, this person needs X amount of experience, just apply. You never know. You never know who's on the other side. On the other side, and might think, actually, I've not thought about this, but okay, this person might not be in this genre. However, I really like their application, and I really like, I don't know, the story that they come with, or the experience that they've come with as well. So ignore those boxes completely.
No, that's good. I was going to say along the same lines.
Was there like a day or a moment or an interaction that you've had that made you feel like, well, I really did my job today? Like it defined your career, or it just made you feel like you were making a difference?
We put on our the festival that we put on last year, and doing that completely like DIY. No like funding or anything. If anyone in here would like to give us funding, that would be wonderful. But no, doing that completely DIY and literally just standing in the back of the room and watching, like, there's like, what, 5 different venues, and standing at the back of them and watching every room be full. And obviously because of what I work in, I get to know everyone I work with, a lot of the bands, and they become a very good friend of mine. So for like the bands that we work with, the festival that we put on was like the first one that they'd ever headlined. So me standing at the back of a room watching some of my favourite people in the whole world headline a DIY festival that we all done together, I was just like, damn. And I was also like 6 pints deep as well.
What's the name of your festival?
Pardon?
What's the name of your festival?
House Guest.
We'll have to pick a different one now. Well, this is maybe not so much the DIY route, but one of the artists that I managed last year at our annual Christmas dinner with Contraire, and she signed her contract to RCA, who are under Sony. So that was a big moment because we've been working for a long time now all of a sudden she's actually got funding to be able to pay herself, and to pay herself back actually for all the investment that she put in. But that was definitely a big moment because, again, she's been gigging and we've been working with her for a long time, and to finally kind of see her be able to have the funding to really, really put her project together, that was a big moment.
I guess for me it's even like moments like these because I'm still at the start of my career, and so getting to the point when I'm getting actually invited to speak at events and like kind of thinking like, oh, people actually care about what I have to say. Like that's definitely one of the big moments for me so far.
Watching you play at the Barrel was pretty sick as well.
Yeah, but that's not me.
Yeah, you can't brush over that. You can't brush over down the barrels. Like.
That was cool too.
That was very funny. Any more questions from the audience?
How hard is it to set up a music festival?
My God. Do you know what, actually, right? It is logistically a nightmare. Like, this year we've got 37 bands, 5 venues. It's chaos, but I will say that it is not as far out of reach as you think. Like, my main goal in life is I want an actual, like, the one we do is like multi-venue on Socky Hall Street Festival. And I've always wanted to have like a full-scale festival, camping and everything. And I was like,
That's really hard.
I know.
I've done that.
And I was always like, that's so unachievable. And then we done House Guest Our Festival. You can do it. Like the jump that we made was we put on a bill with 5 bands and then thought, yeah, we can do 32. So if I can do it, definitely you can do it, okay? But also work with good people. Build a team.
I was gonna say there was a lot of like the meetings.
Oh,
It was a
yeah.
lot. It was a lot of me having to be like, guys, like, what the fuck do you mean? This is doable. Like,
I'm just the ideas guy. Right?
yeah. I'm the logistics girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot because also what we had done. We'd done 2 stages at Sleazy's that year. Well, we're going to do it again, which we'd never done. And like we built a stage because we've always got a venue downstairs, but then like built a stage at the bar, which was the best stage for sure. But yeah, again, logistic. We had to again like the sound engineer was so mad, but he killed it. But it's just working with the right people. You guys definitely need to.
I feel like we can continue the festival logistics chat off stage as well.
Yeah, I'll come speak to you after. It's hell on earth, but do it.
We have unfortunately run out of time, but yeah, massive thank you to everyone.